Oh, we finally gotten to this point. I'm going to need a beer. Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to the first edition of Halloween month. Of course, starting off today with the first in the franchise and the original that started it all, for better or for worse. Big part of me just thinks for worse. Today, I will be talking about the 1978, what many people consider to be a masterpiece. I consider to be a piece of garbage. Halloween, 1978, of course, directed by John Carpenter. We all know that. And joining me today is TheUnaGamer661, or is it? Was it?
Yeah, TheUnaGamer661.
Gotcha.
You got it right.
Say hello. you already
Hey, what's happening, Jacksonites? Hope everyone's doing good out there.
I'm not, because I have to talk about Halloween 78.
It's a classic.
It is not.
Yes, it is, dude. It is an awesome film.
No.
I love this film.
I don't. Okay, so already right off the bat, you guys can already kind of anticipate what my thoughts are on this movie. I'm not a fan of the original Halloween. So let me explain why. Well, let me kind of give a little backstory with my personal history with this. Actually, no, TheUnaGamer, why don't you give your personal history with the film first?
I grew up with this film. I mean, I grew up on horror movies since I was, like, for as long as I can remember. And Halloween was one of the first films that I remember.
Ooh, excuse me.
As a little kid.
Huh?
I thought his story was great. I liked it because I like those kind of juggernaut killers like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers.
Yeah, me too. You know? I like the super strong, silent, will cleave your entire body in half with a knife this big type killers.
Exactly. And I kind of feel like Michael Myers opened the doors for Jason. It's basically...
Oh, absolutely.
Michael Myers was the original Jason Voorhees.
Absolutely. If Friday the 13th... I think it goes without saying that without Halloween, Friday the 13th would not have been made. It's actually kind of a criticism with the original Friday the 13th is that it's clearly trying to be Halloween.
Yeah.
But
then again, it's something. It's also its own little entity there as well, though, because with Halloween, it's basically revolves around a small town and his house, and basically his house.
It's a lot darker too than Friday the 13th.
Where he lives. And on Friday the 13th is revolving around a campsite where the killer had died, or previously, or where he had drowned.
Supposedly.
And then he sees his mother get her head cut off and starts finishing her work.
Yep. So would you rank this as one of your favorite horror films?
Heck yeah, definitely. I mean, also, too bad the Jacksonites can't see this, but yeah, I actually have a Michael Myers mask. I actually have two Michael Myers masks. This one was part 2 mask that I have here, and then I have one that's up above my entertainment center, and that one was actually autographed by George Wilbur, the guy who played as Michael Myers in part 4 and part 6, I believe. Yeah, This is part 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Cool.
He's a fucking dick, though, but...
Well, if you want to see those masks, check out TheUnaGamer's Halloween 2018 trailer reaction video. You can see him with his mask there.
Oh, yeah.
So as for me, my history with this movie is... So I, of course, had always heard about the original Halloween growing up. And when I was about 10 years old, that's when I saw, of course, the first season of James Rolfe's Monster Madness. And of course, he talked about the original Halloween during that season. And that's when I finally saw like full-on clips of the original Halloween. And of course, at that time, I was a blind follower of what James Rolfe says is good must be good. So I finally got around to seeing the original Halloween like 3 years later or so in full. And I kind of just blindly said to myself, yeah, I liked it. It was good. But then I got this copy, of course, like 5 years later. Because I was in a horror movie mood at the time, and I realized I don't own the original Halloween. Oh, hello, Grimace and Gojira. Yes, happy early Halloween. So I owned other parts of the franchise before then, but I didn't own the original. So when I finally got the original from Amazon, I watched it the day that I got it. That was the first time I had seen the film in full since I saw it when I was 13. And that's when it set in. It was also that summer when I saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time. And what a disappointment that one was, too. Me being a part of YouTube, and me, of course, watching a shit ton of YouTube videos over the years, being a fan of many horror movie reviewer channels like Boots to Reboots. Well, Boots to Reboots is a much more recent one, but James Rolfe. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. Fuck.
And it's kind of drawing a blank here.
Well, yeah, there's lots of movie reviewers out there who just praise the ever-living shit out of Halloween. It just kind of seems like there is a hive mind mentality when it comes to the original Halloween. I've never, ever seen somebody come out and say that they dislike the original Halloween. The only one who I've seen come close is Necro VMX. When he reviewed Halloween for his 10 days of horror slashers special for Halloween, he of course reviewed the original Halloween, and he said that Halloween is pretty good, but I can't help but feel that it's a little overrated. People just treat it like it's the be all end all for horror films, and people forget that Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out the same year, 4 years prior. Texas Chainsaw Massacre debatably cementing the foundation of slasher films, and Black Christmas being a better movie. I don't think that, but I do agree with both.
No, I don't agree about Black Christmas. I think I really didn't like Black Christmas all that much.
I prefer the
remake was even.
I prefer the remake of Black Christmas myself.
I didn't even like the remake either. I was like, oh my god,
it's an acquired taste. And it's got some fucked up scenes in it, but I do prefer it to the original. So that was my first exposure to somebody who kind of goes a little bit against the general consensus when it comes to the original Halloween. But outside of that, I've never ever heard somebody outright say that they dislike the original Halloween. It's always, Halloween is the greatest horror movie ever made. Halloween is so good. It's such a masterpiece. It is such a timeless. And for years, I have just felt like an alien on a different fucking planet. Oh, here's another one. One of my best friends, Eric Harrison from the Death Twitch Horror Review, has stated many times that his favorite movie of all time is the original Halloween. Which I don't give him grief for that, because anybody can have a weird movie and have it be their favorite film. I had a friend who said Finding Nemo was their favorite movie of all time. Had another friend that said Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger is their favorite movie of all time.
And I kind of see why.
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's a movie that you grew up with and it's a movie you really enjoy, then that's fine. I'm not gonna shit on somebody for Well, I'm not gonna shit on somebody regardless, but I'm not gonna give somebody grief for saying that the original Halloween is their all-time favorite movie. Hell, my all-time favorite movie is Avatar. There's some people out there who don't like Avatar. I don't know why, but they don't.
Well, there's kind of a reason for that one. It's kind of a ripoff of Pocahontas.
That is probably the most common criticism that I hear.
And it mixed in with some Final Fantasy also, because some of it does have some elements of a Final Fantasy game and whatnot. In some ways, that's kind of one of the grievances I have with Avatar, but I still enjoy the film nonetheless. I do enjoy it for the most part. I don't shit on it and hate it, but there's one little nitpick. The main protagonist of this movie, it seems like he plays the same goddamn character in every fucking movie. He wakes up in Avatar, he finds out his brother's dead. Terminator Salvation, his brother's dead. He's on death row. Man on a Ledge, his brother's dead. He's on death row. He escapes from jail and he has to do some bullshit. Like, do you know how to play anything other than some dude who lost his fucking brother?
Fair enough. But still, and also, Eric, if you ever see this is my opinion on this movie is in no way, shape, or form directed towards you. I simply bring you up because you're my friend, and I know this is your all-time favorite film, but this review is not going to be for you. So, and I think I did give my opinions early on in my original Ranking the Halloween series video when it was a top 9 list, and I put it at number 8. It's kind of changed since then, but I'm kind of spoiled it right then and there. But I'm just not going to sugarcoat it, guys. Throughout the years, I've seen everybody say that this is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, potentially the greatest horror movie ever made, and I cannot disagree more. I think Halloween is the Batman of horror movies. I think it is the most overrated horror movie I have ever fucking seen. When I watch it, I am many things. But the two biggest is I'm bored and I'm confused. I watch the movie and I have to wonder, what the fuck is so good about this movie that other horror movies don't do as well?
If not better.
Now, I've said this before, my all-time favorite horror movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. I still say that's ironic because I don't like John Carpenter as a director. But The Thing is my all-time favorite horror movie, so it's a bit ironic that my all-time favorite horror movie is directed by one of my least favorite horror movie directors. Potentially my least favorite. And I mean no disrespect towards John Carpenter when I say this.
Yeah.
I still do believe that the original Halloween is a complete piece of utter garbage. And I will, of course, explain why when I get to my pros and cons. But let's get through the plot. So, on Halloween night in 1963, in the Midwestern fictional town of Haddonfield, Illinois, based on Haddonfield, New Jersey, Michael Myers, who is dressed in a clown costume and a mask, for some reason stabs his older sister to death, named Judith, with a large butcher's knife in their home. And a pretty famous scene that is done for what many people think is done in one take of a long POV shot of Michael stalking throughout the house looking for his sister. It's not done in one take, though. Carpenter tried to hide it to make it look like it was one take, but you can see where the shot where it cuts.
Yeah.
But like I said, Carpenter did try to hide it, so I give him credit for that.
And you got to think, back then they didn't have the technology that we have now at our fingertips, where we can hide things so much better. You know, he had to do the best he could with what he had.
Mm. Oh, and by the way, I will give this movie this as well. It's one of the most successful. It's one of the most successful. Fuck. independent horror movies, independent movies in general ever made, with a budget of $300,000 to $325,000, and its box office run was $70 million. For 1978, that was a lot of money.
Heck yeah, that's. I mean, you can say it definitely was a huge success.
It was a very, very big success, certainly.
For what they spent on making the movie, not only did they get their money back, but they made a lot of money in the process as well. So
anyway, Michael Myers is then hospitalized at Warren County Smiths Grove Sanitarium. And 15 years later, on the night of October 30th, 1978, Michael's child psychiatrist, Dr. Samuel Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, arrive at Smiths Grove Sanitarium with his colleague named Marion Chambers to escort Michael to court for a hearing. However, Michael escapes from the sanitarium and steals Loomis's car in the process, returning to Haddonfield. He kills a mechanic for his uniform being just a jumpsuit and steals a white Captain Kirk mask that was reused from William Shatner's movie The Devil's Rain. He steals the mask, knives, and rope from a local hardware store. And the next... Go ahead.
I kind of joke about that. Do you know the Michael Myers mask being based on Captain Kirk's face and whatnot? We kind of joked and said, imagine what it would look like if it was based on Leonard Nimoy's face. I think he had a creepier face.
I agree. So the next day on Halloween, Michael stalks a high school student named Laurie Strode, of course being played by Jamie Lee Curtis, this being her debut film, who was 17 at the time. And throughout the day, Laurie notices Michael following her. However, her friends Annie Brackett and Linda Vanderklok, it's a weird name, they then dismiss her concerns, saying it's just some creep on Halloween looking to try to be a pervert.
Yep.
Loomis arrives in Haddonfield in search of Michael, who fully knows his intentions. And after discovering that Judith Myers' headstone has been stolen from the local cemetery, Loomis then meets with Annie's father, who is the sheriff, Lee Brackett. And the two begin their search at the former Myers house for Michael, where Loomis tries to warn the skeptical sheriff about the danger that Michael poses. And one of the most famous scenes in the movie being the devil's eyes line. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to figure him out, and another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I knew that what was behind those eyes was simply evil. Sheriff Brackett then proceeds to patrol the streets while Loomis waits and watches the house, expecting Michael to return there. Later that night, Laurie is babysitting a boy named Tommy Doyle, and while Annie babysits a girl named Lindsay Wallace just across the street, unaware that Michael has followed them, of course. When Annie's boyfriend, Paul, calls her to come pick him up for some fucking, she takes Lindsay over to the Doyle house to spend the night with Laurie and Tommy, and Annie is just about to leave in her car when Michael, who's stowed away in the back seat, strangles her before slitting her throat, which I never saw that, and I've seen this movie probably 20 times, killing her, of course. And soon after, Linda and her boyfriend Bob arrive at the Wallace house, and after having sex, which has to be the quickest sex scene I've ever seen in a movie, and it's probably got to be the lamest sex scene I've ever seen in a movie, Bob goes downstairs to get a beer for Linda. However, and probably the best kill in the movie, Michael shows up and stabs him with a kitchen knife, which pins him to the wall, of course, killing him. Michael then poses as Bob in a ghost costume, which simply just requires throwing a sheet over his head and putting Bob's glasses over. So fucking stupid. and confronts Linda, who at first teases him, but this has no effect. Then Linda proceeds to call Lori, and just as Lori picks up, Michael strangles Linda to death with the telephone cord, making it sound like she's having a massive orgasm on the phone. And meanwhile, Loomis discovers Michael's stolen car and begins combing the streets. And then, suspicious of the activity going on at the Wallace house, Lori goes over and she finds the corpses of Annie, Bob, and Linda in an upstairs bedroom, which is probably the scariest scene in the film, as well, or the only scary scene in the movie, as well as Judith Myers' headstone. Horrified, Lori cowers in the hallway when Michael suddenly appears and attacks her, slashing at her arm. Barely escaping, Lori races back to the Doyle house. However, Michael gets in and attacks her once again, but Lori manages to fend him off long enough for Tommy and Lindsay to escape, and she defends herself by stabbing Michael in the neck with a knitting needle, stabbing him in the eye with a metal hanger, and finally being stabbed with his own knife. But Michael reanimates and tries to strangle Lori. However, Loomis sees the two kids fleeing the house and rushes over to investigate, finding Michael and Lori struggling upstairs, and Loomis shoots Michael 6 times, knocking him off a balcony, saving Lori, of course, in the process. However, when Loomis goes back to check on Michael's body, he finds it missing. And in one of the best cliffhangers that I've ever seen in a horror film, in movie in general, Loomis stares off into the night while Lori begins sobbing in terror as Michael's heavy breathing gets louder and louder as the movie ends. Fuck. So how about this story, Unagamer?
I liked it. I thought the story was well told. I like them. I like the acting in the movie. For an independent movie, it was pretty good. The fun little fact that some people may probably already know by now, but some people might not know, was Jamie Lee Curtis, her mother, was actually in the original Psycho as the
Janet
person
Leigh.
who got stabbed.
Yep, I'm aware. Janet Leigh.
Yeah. And then another fun little fact, I don't know if you know this one or not, the guy who played as Michael Myers, Nick Castle, went on to become a director himself. He directed Dennis the Menace and Major Payne.
That I did not know.
Yep. Yeah, he only directed those 2 movies though. He really didn't have much of a career after that, and he kind of regrets that film. Like he doesn't like to acknowledge it. He will not sign any kind of Michael Myers mask or anything like that. If you try to send him one to autograph, he won't do it for you. He's kind of a dick on that one.
Well, he must have changed because he's coming back to play Michael Myers in the new Halloween.
Oh wow. I guess I don't know. That's crazy, but for a long time he wouldn't do that though. It's just like dude, be grateful, man. That's what got your foot into the door into the movie business.
Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't regret doing Halloween.
Yeah.
Why do you think she came back for H2O Resurrection in 2018?
Yeah.
So anyway, my thoughts on this story. It's as basic a slasher formula as you can get, but this is the movie that essentially firmly cemented the slasher formula, so I can't really criticize it that much. But the story just doesn't blow my mind. It doesn't help that I'm not much of a slasher movie fan anymore. They're incredibly formulaic. They're incredibly... a lot of times the acting is bad. The characters suck. The MPAA likes to censor the hell out of them. And I'm not a big fan of slasher movies anymore. I'd rather get my horror movies from elsewhere. And slasher movies I never find scary. Any slasher villain out there, I don't really get the sense of being scared. I just want to fight him. Like, if Jason was going to come at me with a machete, I'll come right back in with another machete.
Even though he would totally destroy you.
Yeah, you never know. Anyway,
You
so
know, people like Jason and Michael, they're juggernauts. You know, just unstoppable forces
yeah, they're still
of
human
death.
though. Anyway, so this story is just meh for me. Whatever. So, what are your pros, Unigamer?
You know, one of the pros is because of this film, it kind of, you know, led the way for other slasher horror icons like Jason Voorhees and I'm trying to think of who else. There was another one. The Maniac Cop series. That's kind of another one, I think.
Ish.
You know, it kind of led the way for those kind of slash films. That's one of the pros about it, because in a way, if it wasn't for Michael Myers, we wouldn't have Jason Voorhees. And I'm a huge Nightmare, not Friday 13th fan. I'm a fan of the Friday 13th series. Didn't like the remake all that much.
I love the remake.
But yeah, when it's I don't know. To me, Halloween always has a big part in my heart because it's one of the movies I grew up watching as a kid. I don't think it's the greatest horror movie of all time. That I will debate. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a great film in my opinion, but not the greatest of all time.
What's your favorite horror movie?
Like my favorite horror movie of all time. I'm kind of like in a fence. Like I would have to say, Hellraiser is definitely one of them because I love Clive Barker's work. His the thing, what he did at that time, I thought was awesome. I'm a huge fan of Friday 13th, of course. That's definitely going to be in my top list as well. And this one, it's so bad it's good, but it's still going to be part of it. Is Sleepaway Camp.
Oh God. Oh God. Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Up until that point, like, you know, the killer, it's kind of like blows your mind when you find out who the killer is, and you find out the killer
that's the only reason that Sleepaway Camp is still remembered to this day. Is because of that ending.
Turned out to be a transsexual.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it though. I liked how they kind of like they weren't afraid to do that. You know, like people were afraid to kind of do that kind of thing and kind of go into that barrier. Like, should we or should we not? And they're like, you know what? Let's fucking do it. Let's go ahead and see what people say. And it got a good review. Or not a really good review, but it
has a cult following.
Exactly, it has its own cult following, and then it's the sequels. I remember the sequels.
Sequels are garbage, especially 3 and 4.
Yeah, but it's just like I don't know. I think it's kind of funny though when you look at him, when you watch him, and you say, "Oh my god, I can't believe that's Bruce Springsteen's sister."
Pamela Springsteen, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as for me,
she lives in LA as a photographer now.
As for me, I can't say that I'm a Hellraiser fan. I think the first 2 movies are competently made, but they're just not my type. The sequels are all awful, especially a lot of the later sequels.
Yeah, after part 4, I kind of pretend that the rest of them don't exist.
As for Sleepaway Camp, can't really say I'm a fan as well. Mainly just because it's very much so a Friday the 13th ripoff.
Yeah. I kind of got a funny story with that one, though, how I first saw that. It was me and a friend of mine from school. We were looking at horror movies to watch for the weekend, and we saw the cover for Sleepaway Camp, and we see you know, the chick with a Jason mask and a Freddy glove in her backpack.
Oh, that's for 2.
Huh?
That was for 2.
Yeah. But when we saw that cover, we're like, oh man, this looks like an awesome film. So I gave it to my mom to rent because my mom let us watch horror movies all the time. And we hung out. It was me, my mom, my friend, and his sister. we're all hanging out in the living room watching this movie. We're like, oh my god, this is so bad. We couldn't help laughing. It was just so funny too.
Well, yeah, that's how Sleepaway Camp 2 should be viewed. It is purely a so bad it's good movie. You watch it just to laugh at how stupid it is.
Exactly. And like she's kind of like the original Chucky in some ways, because that's how Chucky was. He was he was a smart ass killer doll who would make a lot of smart ass remarks before he would kill someone, and that's what she did, especially in part 3 when she had that one dude tied to the tree and was about to rip off his arms. She goes, "Oh, thank God, another idiot away from politics."
Part 3 is just a terrible film.
I don't know. It is bad, but it's like part 2, just so bad it's good. It's just too funny to take seriously.
Fuck, I look for it later. Anyway, so and as for the Friday the 13th series, I said this in my Halloween promo. I'm not a fan anymore. I like part 3, part 6, and Freddy vs. Jason. That's it. Love Freddy. Oh, and the remake too. I like the remake.
I hated the remake.
I hated the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street.
That one I actually liked. I thought that one was actually done pretty well compared to other remakes I've seen.
Anyway, so we're getting off track. Are there any pros that you have for Halloween?
I think I talked about how I like the storytelling. I like, what they were able to do at the time with the killing scenes and whatnot, because they didn't have the technology that we have now, and like for now when we do decapitations and other stuff like that and other murder scenes, it's easy to do computer generations, the computer graphics, whatever it is, to show these kind of imagery. Where back then you just kind of had to, I don't know how to put it, but it was
do difficult. What you can with what you got.
Exactly, and they managed to do well with it, I thought.
I don't. Anything else?
Like I said, I like the fact that Michael Myers was the original juggernaut of death when it comes to the slasher films genre, where where it basically, because of Michael Myers, we now have Jason Voorhees. We now have.
I am going to also go on a record by saying I do prefer Jason Voorhees to Michael Myers, just because I think Jason's more badass. Because
I like the hockey mask, yeah.
Well, yeah, the hockey mask is awesome too, but he also uses a larger variety of weapons. Michael uses a decent variety, but for the most part, all he uses is just his kitchen knife.
Yeah.
But still, I do like Mike.
Has a better reach. And also, the machete has a better reach.
Yeah, I know. I have like 10 of these. Is that it?
Well, also, I like the fact that, this was the beginning of a series of Halloween films, which I really did, even though some of them, the sequels were kind of bad, some of them were pretty bad, but some of them were really good as well. Also, one of the pros about this was its ending. The ending to the very first one had it was a cliffhanger, and kind of like, I was kind of expecting a part 2, and I was hoping for a part 2 kind of thing. Or if I was around at the time, I should say, because this movie came out before I was born. But it made me excited to see part 2 because we had that one too. I was like, oh man, pop in part 2 right now. I want to see this now, kind of thing. After watching the first one because of the way it ended.
That's what a lot of people do with the first 2 Halloween movies.
Yeah. And then the second one immediately took off where the first one left. So
it's both a good thing and a bad thing in my eyes, but we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let me get to my pros with the original Halloween.
Okay.
Pro number 1, The soundtrack is awesome.
I about that one.
I will wholeheartedly admit the music, scored by John Carpenter, of course, is awesome. I love the soundtrack. The Halloween theme, of course, it's one of the most iconic and memorable pieces of music in horror movie cinema, period. I love the Halloween theme. It's gone through many different renditions throughout the years. While the original is not my favorite, I'd actually say it's a tie between either H2O's version or Halloween 2's version, the original Halloween 2. But of course, I love the Halloween theme. The opening credits with the Halloween theme playing is iconic as fuck, of course. And also the rest of the score. It is very creepy. Just a shame it's over a shitty movie. It is used to much greater effect. I will give a franchise credit is if it keeps reusing recognizable and iconic pieces of music throughout the franchise. Like the Terminator franchise kind of does it. It does it except for Salvation. The Friday the 13th series. Actually, no, I don't like the music for the Friday the 13th series.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street does it. Yeah, it's got decent music. But Halloween, for the original Halloween, the score is awesome. I will give it that.
I like the score for Part 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. That was good. The way they kind of redid the score for it, and the way it kind of gave it a little bit of an update. I was like, awesome. That sounded cool.
Pro number 2 is the cliffhanger ending. Now, cliffhanger endings are good when you actually follow up on the fucking cliffhanger. And in this case, of course, they do follow up on that cliffhanger. It's not a Gamera 3 where the filmmakers intentionally made a cliffhanger ending to end the series, or the series wants to have a follow-up to that cliffhanger, but the movie or show gets canceled, like Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah, I know. Fuck you, stars.
Yes, I actually just bought the first season of that show off Amazon a couple days ago.
Nice.
But cliffhanger endings can work, and in this movie, I think it does work. It's one of the I do agree. It's one of the best cliffhanger endings of all time, because you just don't expect the movie to end that way. You expect to see Michael's body when you look out onto the balcony, and then you don't see Michael's body, and the movie just ends with shots throughout the neighborhood with Michael's heavy breathing getting louder and louder and louder. It's a great cliffhanger, and it leaves you on the edge of your seat. And when the movie ends, you're like, wait, that's it? Nuh-uh. And so that's a sign of a good cliffhanger ending.
Yeah.
And that's it for the pros.
Here goes the cons.
Do you have any cons with this movie?
The lighting is kind of one of my cons right there. But then again, it's like, well, actually, no, they still could have did better lighting with the movie.
Yeah, that's one issue that I have with this film as well.
I don't know, like
the acting, the characters.
Some of the characters, yeah, definitely. I have to say some of them were kind of weak, but still, I don't know. I still like this movie too much to really downplay it. I'm sorry, man.
Well, I don't, so why don't I just get to my cons to make this very interesting. Yeah. Con number 1 is that the entire cast sucks dick. Even Donald Pleasance and even Jamie Lee Curtis.
Ouch.
The supporting, like Jamie's friends, Linda, somebody, I can't remember their fucking names. They're forgettable. They're ditzy. They're stupid. They're annoying. The one chick who says totally, oh my God, if you were to play a drinking game with how many times she says totally in this movie, you'd be completely shit-faced by halfway through the fucking movie.
Or die of alcohol poisoning.
That too. way too fucking much does she say totally in this movie. So yeah, her friends are extremely annoying. They're extremely ditzy. Their dialogue is awful. Awful. Like, well, who needs books anyway? I don't need books. I carry all my books to school. Who the fuck gives a shit about your fucking book problem? And Sheriff Brackett, he's the typical I don't believe what you're trying to say. I think you're just a crazy motherfucker, dumbass. Don't like Sheriff Brackett. I hate to say this, but Donald Pleasance really is not that good in this movie. I think his performance throughout the franchise is very one note, and it gets very stale, very, very, very stale. And it's stale right off the bat here with this first film, because he's essentially a one note track performance throughout the entire movie. He has his moments when he's good. Of course, the Devil's Eyes scene is good. And the ending when he saves Laurie is a good scene too. But outside of that, I don't like Donald Pleasance throughout the film. And Jamie Lee Curtis, she's very deadpan. Okay, she gets better in the second half. Actually, no, she gets better in the last 20 minutes. But before that, her acting is very deadpan, and she comes off like she's an Amish person. She has this same expression on her face, like it throughout the film. Her dialogue is very like almost one word, bored. She sounds bored, and she looks bored throughout a lot of this movie. Some will say, well, that's because this was her first film and she didn't know what she was doing, which I'll give her a little bit of slack for that, but I just don't think she's that good in the first hour of this movie. She gets better in the last half hour, but the first hour of this movie, I don't think her acting is that good. And I mean no disrespect towards Jamie Lee Curtis. She is a very good actress. She has proven time and time again that she can act, just not in this movie. What were you gonna say?
No, I was agreeing with you. Definitely, I've seen her in a lot of movies and characters she's played, and she can play them well.
Not to mention, I think she's aged fantastically.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, the entire cast all throughout the film is just crap. Con number 2 is the lighting. A lot of times the lighting is so dark that all I see is the silhouette of people walking around. I get the feeling that was intentional to make the movie a lot creepier. You overdid it, guys. The most important thing about a movie is to be able to fucking watch it. And there are some scenes that are so dark in this movie, I literally have to watch this in pitch black in order for me to see what's going on screen. Thankfully, that's one thing the sequel does better than this one, is that the lighting, while it is intentionally dark a lot, you can at least see what the fuck is going on. So this movie, the lighting, a lot of times, it's really dark. Can't see shit. Con number 3, I kind of talked about this with the characters, but the acting is bad. Not necessarily from Donald Pleasance. I say it's very one note, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad. And Jamie Lee Curtis in the last half hour, her acting is good. The first hour, it's kind of not. But mainly it's from all the supporting characters, especially from Laurie's friends. The acting is bad. Painfully cringy bad. I cannot take these characters seriously. I just cannot relate to these characters whatsoever because the acting is just absolutely horrendous.
I just remembered another little con from mine that I should have pointed out.
Go ahead.
The plot holes. There are some plot holes in this film, definitely.
Like what?
How did Michael learn to drive?
Yeah, that's a big one. How the fuck did Michael learn how to drive?
Yep. Also, how did Michael know that Lori was his sister?
We're going to save that for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's part of the plot hole for tomorrow's as well. But yeah, yeah, there are some plot holes in this film. I think all films, though, have plot holes.
I think, yeah, every movie has at least one plot hole. It can be big or it can be small, but I think there's at least one. No matter how good the movie is.
But at least it's not as bad as some of the plot holes in Resident Evil movies.
Those aren't plot holes. Those are continuity errors.
No, those are plot caverns. Or plot abysses.
Kind of. Anyway, so yeah, the lighting, don't like the lighting. The acting is terrible. The acting is just awful. Except for Jamie Lee Curtis in the third act, and except for Donald Pleasance for the most part. Con number, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 is that, god damn, is this movie slow. This movie is only 91 minutes long, but it feels like it's 3 hours. I've said before, I don't like slow burns. I really don't. It can be done well, but in my eyes and for my tastes, a slow burn has been done. I think the amount of times are only countable on 2 hands.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's even lower than that. So here, it doesn't work. And for my taste, the slow pace does not work.
Then again, it could have been worse. It could have been like a fast pace, like Tron Legacy.
At least the movie doesn't feel like it's 3 hours long.
Kind of does in some ways too, though. But yeah, the Tron Legacy, I remember so many times where like I felt like if I had to use the bathroom, I was going to miss out on some key point in the film. Like, fuck.
So yeah, con number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The body count is way too fucking low for my tastes. I like some slasher movies, I will admit, and I like my slasher movies to have a big body count. This movie has 5 plus a dog. Too low.
No, the dog didn't come until part 2.
No, Michael killed the dog in this one.
Oh yeah. He also killed the dog in part 2.
Yes.
That's wrong.
What is it with Michael killing dogs, you fucker?
I don't know.
He even eats dogs in Rob Zombie's Halloween too, fucker.
We got to get Pete on your ass, Michael.
Yes. So yeah, the body count is way too low. 5 people. Lame. And this leads to another problem. Con number 6 is that the kills suck. They're mostly... Okay, this movie is not gory. That's another issue I have. It's not gory. There's maybe a shot glass worth of blood in it. And I think that's lame. Though I will say the best kill in the movie is when Bob gets stabbed and pinned to the wall. Best kill in the movie. Mainly just by elimination. The 2 strangle kills are lame. There's one kill that happens off screen. And there's another kill I can't remember. So yeah, the kills all suck. They're not shot very well. They just kind of feel like they're spur of the moment type things. And the kills just aren't very good. They all suck. Except for Bob's kill. That's a good kill. Con number 7, I think. Yeah, 7 is that the movie is boring for the first 75 minutes. I timed it. The last 15 minutes is when the movie does get entertaining, and it's the final chase scene. It's entertaining, sure, but that's just because there's stuff happening. Nothing fucking happens for the first 75 minutes, and it's boring. Absolutely boring. hate the first 2 acts of this movie. It's boring. Con number 8 is that this movie is too tame. Way too tame for my tastes. I like my horror movies to be gory. This movie is not. Like I said, it has maybe a shot glass's worth of blood. It's very tame. And actually, there's a couple installments in the not Friday 13th, though it does get that too. In the Halloween series where I think the kills are way too tame. Though this one is definitely the most tame of all. And the one scene where you sort of see a pair of tits, because this movie is exclusively widescreen, the bottom screen like covers a majority of the chick's tits. This movie, aside from the language, I think if this movie was made the way it was now, it'd easily be a PG-13 movie.
Well, actually, kind of back then, that's what they were going for.
Regardless, this movie is way too tame for my tastes. And finally, con number 9, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This movie's not scary, except for the scene where all the corpses pop out to scare Laurie. That's a freaky scene. But outside of that, this movie's not scary. It's not chilling. It's not suspenseful. It's not shocking. It's not scary. And I think that's the biggest sin a horror movie can do, is not be scary.
Well, you gotta think back then compared to the movie making now,
70s horror movies can be scary, have been scary, because what came out the next year? The original Alien.
Oh, yeah.
And also what came out that same year, that's also a horror movie. Dawn of the Dead. That movie's freaky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is scary of the thought of getting eaten by a zombie.
I don't find this movie scary. So those are all my cons. So the 2 pros that I have for this movie, they can't save this movie for me. The characters suck. The acting is bad. The movie's too slow. The lighting is so bad at times, can't see what the fuck is going on. Body count is too low. The kills, except for one, suck. It's boring for the first 2 acts. It's too tame, and it's not scary at all. So the 2 pros, the good cliffhanger and the soundtrack, do not save this movie for me. What is your rating for this movie?
4 out of 5 stars.
So I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat my opinion. My rating for Halloween 1978 is a 0 out of 10.
Ouch. Damn.
I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry. Fuck this movie. So post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. You probably won't, but hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button, even though a lot of people won't. And share this video with your friends.
Send him your hate comments.
If you send me a hate comment, you will be blocked and deleted. Don't fucking care.
Oh, man.
Check out TheUnaGamer's channel. I'm sure he's got some videos on the way. More challenge videos for fuckface behind the camera.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because I'm going to wait till Friday to see if he actually keeps his fucking promise. He said that he's going to upload another Angry Grandpa video that hasn't been uploaded to YouTube. But let's see if he actually stays true to his word, or if this is going to be more bullshit, like he said when I'm going to be uploading videos in the summer and this and that. I do plan on talking about that. I've been meaning to, but I've just been so busy with everything going on in my life. So,
well, yep. So
that's being an adult.
He gives it a 4. I give it a 0. It's crap. Look forward to tomorrow's video where TheUnaGamer and I discuss the original Halloween 2, a sequel that's superior, mostly just by out of default. So look forward to that. And as always, go out and fight back against someone who's trying to kill you, for Christ's sake. Are you that stupid? And I will see you guys.
Petrified.
And I will see you guys in the next one. And check out TheUnaGamer's channel.
Peace.